someone were to approach me who had no knowledge of Lucasville, had no knowledge of the prison, and no knowledge of the uprising in 1993, I would initially tell them that given the severity of the oppression experienced by people behind bars.
The surprising thing is that it took so long for it to be a riot.
That there aren't more.
That they're not rioting every day.
When you're in a prison and you've dealt through all these different abuses and conditions, that's a kettle that begins to boil.
When you treat someone like an animal,
it just makes them bite more.
I don't know of any case in which a prison riot occurred just for the sake of rioting. There were foundational issues, whether it was a snitching system or some sort of, the issues in terms of actual living conditions, those sorts of things that led to it.
The cells are smaller than you can possibly imagine.
It's a closet space that is enough room for a bed, a sink, and a commode.
So if you could imagine being confined with another human being, even a loving spouse, for 24 hours every day in a small bathroom.
I mean, when you take hope away from people, whether they're locked up or they're free on the street, you're creating a powder keg, and that's what's going on in a lot of the prisons. And to have the prisons overcrowded in that way.
Kind of be like putting people in a pressure cooker.
Within seconds.
Prisoners rioted. There's no saving that. That scares people. It scares people everywhere.
This is Sadiq Abdullah Hassan from Ohio State Penitentiary in Youngstown, Ohio. I wish to emphasize that prison is an unpleasant place to be. It's a hardship not only on the prisoners, but on the prisoners' families as well. And we must take in consideration, too, that although many people are in prison because they actually commit crimes, there are other people that are in prison that didn't commit any crimes. You have a lot of violence. You have correctional officials who are trying to make an extra buck. They bring drugs. They bring weapons into the institutions. These weapons are being used on other prisoners. Prisoners are using drugs, trying to escape the hardships, the brutality, the nonsense that they experience on a daily basis.
And I think that mass incarceration impacts all of us, though especially some of us. I think we're all criminals. There's not one of us who hasn't committed a crime. If you've made it to adulthood, you've committed a crime. You've drank underage, you've experimented with drugs, you've sped on the freeway, you may have shoplifted something from a store. All of us make mistakes and violate the law. We're all criminals, but only some of us get branded.
We refer to the prison as Lucasville, but that's not actually the name of the prison. The prison is called the Southern Ohio Correctional Facility, and it's in Lucasville, Ohio. Lucasville had a very violent history. There was a long train of abuses, treatment, inhumane conditions, and brutality suffered by prisoners. And more often than not, a prison guard would either instigate the prison-on-prison violence or were the perpetrators of it themselves. So this is the backdrop that led up to the disturbance. You had a warden at the prison by the name of Arthur Tate Jr., but known to the convict body as simply King Arthur. King Arthur was brought to the prison actually to just try to offset some of the violence that was going on. He instituted Operation Shakedown. He instituted a lot of rules and regulations that was not to the liking of the prisoners as well as his staff.
I was actually in, Lucasville because of a race riot in Mansfield. So, if you got anything like that on your record where they run those type of sweeps, you'll get caught up in it. And I end up doing 18 months in the hole for that, and that covered, the time doing what the riot took place.
The warden was clearly aware of the conditions at the prison and was highly advised by his fellow colleagues to calm the hostile conditions at the prison. Well, he did the opposite. He turned up the heat.
Then when a new warden came in, he decided to change that, just trying to sell you with anybody. Selling white supremacists with black nationalists.
They put homophobic prisoners in the cells with known homosexuals.
You know, people who smoke with people that don't smoke, things of that nature. It creates a lot of tension.
And of course, if you made the call and your mother or whoever wasn't there, tough. Wait till next year.
They were given aspirins for serious medical conditions. There was inadequate water, food supply. There was overcrowding of the cells. There was exploitation of inmates.
And all the prisoners were dissatisfied with a numerous of things, and they talked about it among themselves. No one took the initiative to take a stance against the problems that exist in the institution. Almost everyone who has asked me, what was the cause of the Lucasville uprising? And I clearly point out the mandatory TB testing was the straw that broke the camel back.
When the uprising began, that the Muslims who started it had in mind something essentially nonviolent. They were protesting the prison's plan.
An injection of phenol underneath the skin, which is an alcoholic substance.
And was contrary to their religion.
Once again, he had an opportunity to say, you know what, we're going to calm the conditions at the prison. This is a violation of your constitutional rights to practice your religion. You're right.
Ohio didn't need to do that. There are other ways to test for TB. X-rays, you can spit into a cup.
But once the protests got underway, other prisoners had other problems with the prison officials because of the physical abuse, the racial insults, and other problems that was going on in the institution. They took this opportunity to make it a full-scale riot.
There's word tonight of a prison riot at a maximum security prison in southern Ohio.
Hundreds of prisoners took over part of the prison yesterday.
Easter Sunday, 450 prisoners armed only with batons stolen from the guards reportedly took cell block L adjacent to death row under siege.
Injuring 7 guards and taking an undetermined number of guards hostage.
5 inmates were killed, 18 others injured.
There was an array of armed forces around the prison and been rivaled since D-Day.
Alarms going off. You know, the man down alarms they have when they see you can hear the helicopters flying in and circling.
It is not clear yet why or specifically what they want.
Prisoners do have constitutional rights. Just because you're a prisoner or because the gates and doors close behind you when we become prisoners, it doesn't mean that we forfeit our constitutional rights. That's the Lucasville 5. George Skates, Jason Robb, there was members of the Aaron Brotherhood, Keith Lamont, also known as Bob Money Shakur, and the latter two are both Sunni Muslim. That is James Ware, also known as Namir Abdul Mateen, and myself, Sadiq Abdullah Hassan. We comprise the Lucasville 5.
But were so bad that it drove together as one the Aryan Brotherhood, the Black Gangster Disciples, and the black inmates of Muslim faith against an administration.
The African American prisoners involved had come to Georgia. It is getting out of control. It's turning into a race riot. Would you, George, address the prisoner body, and in particular the white prisoners?
It is not a racial issue. Black and white alike have joined hands in SOCF and have become one strong unit.
This is all of us against the administration.
The prison official would not allow us to talk to the media. Some people, they took the big speakers from the gym and they brought it to the way the media was actually facing. And prisoners started playing requests, they demand, and when the prison official or prison authority realized he was communicating with the media, they actually cut off the power and electricity. So then prisoners took sheets.
It seems that the inmates are trying to get in touch with us, the media. They're hanging sheets outside the windows.
The prison authorities to demonstrate to them that A, they have that access, and B, that they're willing to let the inmates have the story out.
The media did not talk about the murders that had occurred at Lucasville were guards killed inmates. The media didn't talk about that.
I know you want to know the whys and hows. Our major concern is getting our staff out, period.
I sensed a lot of tension between the hawks and the doves on the law enforcement side as to how to handle this. There were many who wanted to handle it like Attica and just storm them. Others who wanted a peaceful negotiated solution.
The prison system's reaction
Very clearly stated over the negotiation tape, you have until a certain time this morning to give us the water and to give us the electricity. And if you don't, you've got a dead man on your hands.
And the prisoner had made a demand over the phone, and also wrote down some sheets and placed it on the outside of the prison wall so the media could put in their cameras and zone in.
More bed sheets out of the window today, written on the sheets, a threat to kill one of their 8 hostages if prison officials refuse to meet their demands.
So when the media read that, and they was talking to this first person, name was Tess Unwin, they asked her about the threat that the prisoner made, and she was basically saying, that is the language of prisoners. We can expect that.
It's a standard threat. It's nothing new. We're going to kill a hostage.
Prisoners heard that.
He demanded no punishment for the inmates involved in the uprising. And as promised, 26-year-old corrections officer James Demons was set free.
Feel that the institution has done everybody just wrong by keeping everybody in there so long. Now, I knew that Bellingham, he was a good friend of mine. The only reason that man is dead because he stayed in there so long because they want to cut off water and turn off electricity, which had me scared for my life in there. So I adjusted to the Nation of Islam.
One of the guards, dressed by his captors as a Muslim, was released today.
I felt so touched and moved by his conversion that I gave him one of my Islamic garments to wear out, and one of the brothers gave him an Islamic cap. But I do recall him and many of the other officers, they were dissatisfied with the slow progress with regards to the prison official.
Now, here's what I'm going to do. I got a CO sitting here. I'm going to let you talk to him.
Who am I going to speak with?
This is Officer Clark. This is a sign of good faith on our part. And this is Daryl Clark Jr. What these guys are doing, now listen to me.
I'm listening to you.
Every fucking word I'm telling you guys,
I'm listening to you. I'm listening to you.
Okay. Now, these guys have risked their lives to protect us. You understand?
I hear you.
They've been giving us food. They've been giving us clothing. They've been making damn sure no one comes near us. We have not been touched in no way that you're thinking of.
That's good. We appreciate that. We want you safe. Okay,
they want
Clark.
it up to the news and had that broadcasted, and it's over with.
Okay, Officer Clark. We're going to try to get that. We want to get that.
Now, I've heard you guys say that stuff before, and you never have come through that shit. I want your word, man. These inmates that gave me their word, and nothing's going to happen to us, and by God, they can keep it.
I'm going to give you my word, Clark, that I'm going to do my best to get this worked out and work with these people.
If you can, for any of these hostages, me, myself included.
That is our main goal and objective, to get every single person out of there safe.
They're not asking for nothing but the fucking newscast media. That's all they want.
And we're working on it right now. The powers that be are discussing it.
And the reason that they knew that the prison officials were procrastinating is because we was recording the conversation we had with the prison officials. We took this in place for the guards to actually hear. So when Demons expressed his resentment toward the prison official and was upset with him, he did that because he had first-hand knowledge from listening to the tape.
1 week into the riot, I received a call at home on a Sunday morning from the chief counsel for the Department of Corrections, informing me that they had been in negotiations with the inmate leader.
This came after inmates and prison authorities agreed to a 21-point agreement on the inmate demands. They mostly had to do with prison policy and procedures, and an agreement that there will be no retaliation against the prisoners after their surrender.
America's other major standoff by 450 rebellious inmates at Ohio's toughest prison ended peacefully late today, but it left a terrible toll.
One prison guard was killed, as were 7 inmates. And today, authorities found the bodies of 2 more prisoners inside the evacuated cell block that's been described as a disaster area.
The prosecution had the benefit of all of the law enforcement resources of the FBI, the Ohio Highway Patrol, and they had
government-funded agency, the county prosecutor, the police, that can go out and get whatever kind of testing that might need to get done.
Bellingham, who was strangled in a shower stall at approximately 11 o'clock in the morning on April 15th. To this day,
punishment. It's easier in some ways to be harsh than lenient. It's easier to be simplistic in your assumptions than it is to actually tackle the really, really difficult issues of what happens when people engage in crime. But we don't have vocabulary in the United States that's really strong enough to actually tackle those issues. There aren't effective slogans, there aren't effective ways in which to communicate the complexity of all of that to the American public.
But I can go to death row, kill somebody, but won't nobody go to death row for killing me.